Fame does not usually arrive quietly. Sometimes it builds slowly, scene by scene, role by role, until one moment pushes a person into a much larger spotlight. This documentary explores that kind of rise. It follows the journey of Sydney Sweeney, tracing the path from an ordinary childhood to becoming one of the most discussed figures in modern entertainment. It examines the choices, the work, the setbacks, and the timing that shaped this career, and it explains in detail why attention around Sydney Sweeney has intensified so sharply right now. This story covers early life and background, education and first interests, the beginning of a professional career, the climb toward recognition, major achievements, and the challenges that came along the way. It then focuses closely on the recent surge in public discussion, breaking down exactly why Sydney Sweeney is trending, how that trend started, and why it matters at this specific point in time. Sydney Sweeney was born into a middle-class family, far from the traditional centers of the entertainment industry. The early environment was practical and structured, with little direct connection to film or television. Family life emphasized responsibility, routine, and long-term planning rather than creative risk. From a young age, there was no clear expectation of entering acting as a profession. Instead, early years were shaped by school, sports, and normal childhood activities, with creativity appearing gradually rather than dramatically. Interest in performance began in a modest way. Exposure to films and television sparked curiosity about storytelling, characters, and emotional expression. Unlike many childhood performers, this interest was not initially supported by industry access or family connections. Instead, it developed as a personal ambition. Acting was seen as something distant and uncertain, but the curiosity was strong enough to push for opportunities beyond the immediate environment. Education played a significant role in shaping discipline and work ethic. Sydney Sweeney balanced academic responsibilities with early auditions and small acting opportunities. This period required careful time management and frequent travel, often without any guarantee of success. Early education was not abandoned for acting. Instead, it continued alongside professional attempts, reinforcing a mindset that combined creative ambition with practical planning. The career began with small roles that offered limited visibility. These early projects were not designed to build fame, but to gain experience. Short appearances, minor characters, and brief screen time became training grounds. Each role provided exposure to professional sets, directors, and production demands. Progress was slow, and recognition was minimal. This phase tested patience more than talent, as many auditions led nowhere and many performances passed unnoticed. Gradually, opportunities became more substantial. Supporting roles in television series allowed Sydney Sweeney to demonstrate range and emotional control. These performances did not immediately result in widespread recognition, but they caught the attention of casting professionals and creators within the industry. The work showed consistency rather than instant impact, building a quiet reputation for reliability and depth. The rise to recognition came through projects that reached larger audiences and received critical discussion. Complex characters required emotional intensity, vulnerability, and restraint. These roles positioned Sydney Sweeney as an actor capable of handling challenging material rather than relying on surface-level appeal. As visibility increased, so did expectations. Performances were analyzed more closely, and the public image began to take shape through repeated exposure. Major achievements followed in the form of prominent roles in widely discussed productions. These projects expanded reach beyond niche audiences and into mainstream conversation. Critical responses highlighted commitment to character work and willingness to engage with difficult themes. Industry recognition did not arrive overnight, but momentum became noticeable. Each new release reinforced the perception of steady upward movement rather than a single breakout moment. With increased attention came challenges. Public scrutiny intensified, and discussions around typecasting, media framing, and industry pressures emerged. Like many rising figures, Sydney Sweeney faced moments where professional choices were questioned and personal image was dissected. There were debates around roles taken, the nature of certain performances, and how the media chose to represent those decisions. These controversies did not halt progress, but they added complexity to public perception. The most significant shift in recent discussions centers on why Sydney Sweeney is trending right now. This trend did not emerge randomly. It developed through a combination of recent high-profile projects, increased media coverage, and broader cultural conversations. A particular release placed Sydney Sweeney back into the center of public attention, not just as an actor, but as a subject of debate about the entertainment industry itself. The trend began when a recent performance generated strong online engagement. Clips circulated widely across social platforms, triggering discussion that went beyond the project itself. Interviews conducted around the same period added fuel to the conversation as comments were analyzed, quoted, and reframed by different audiences. The timing was critical. The industry was already engaged in conversations about representation, opportunity, and image, and this moment aligned directly with those themes. People are talking about Sydney Sweeney now because the current phase of the career represents a transition point. Earlier roles established credibility, but recent work signals a shift toward greater control, higher stakes, and broader influence. The discussion is not only about acting performance, but about career direction. Viewers and commentators are assessing whether this phase marks a peak, a reinvention, or the foundation for long-term dominance. Media coverage amplified the trend by framing recent appearances and projects as indicators of larger industry patterns. Articles, opinion pieces, and reaction content multiplied quickly. Each new headline referenced earlier discussions, creating a feedback loop that kept the name circulating. This did not happen before because earlier projects, while successful, did not intersect so strongly with cultural debates or mainstream attention cycles. The trend matters because it reshapes how Sydney Sweeney is positioned within the industry. Instead of being viewed solely as a performer, the conversation now includes questions about influence, longevity, and decision-making power. This moment tests whether the foundation built over years of steady work can support sustained relevance under intense scrutiny. Public and media reactions have been mixed but active. Supporters highlight consistency, dedication, and growth. Critics focus on industry dynamics and media narratives rather than individual performance alone. What is clear is that indifference is no longer part of the equation. Attention has become constant, and silence has been replaced by analysis. Currently, Sydney Sweeney stands at a point of high visibility with multiple future possibilities. Continued acting work, potential involvement behind the scenes, and selective project choices will shape the next phase. The decisions made now are likely to define long-term reputation more than early career struggles ever did. In terms of legacy, the impact is still forming. If the current trajectory continues, Sydney Sweeney may be remembered as an example of gradual ascent rather than instant fame, and as a figure whose relevance was built through persistence rather than spectacle. The long-term influence will depend on how this moment of intense attention is managed and transformed into sustainable progress. The story of Sydney Sweeney is not just about success, it is about timing, preparation, and the unpredictable nature of public focus. It shows how years of quiet work can suddenly intersect with cultural conversation, creating a moment that defines a career. If you want more deep, factual documentaries that break down careers, trends, and turning points like this, make sure to subscribe and stay with us for the next story.